Working together to make Leon County safer. All in. All in. Woo!
All right, welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is a special one because we're sitting down with someone who truly understands this agency from every angle, based off of the discussions that I've had with him. We have with us today Sergeant Shade McMillian. And for those of you who may not be familiar, he's spent over 20 years exactly with the Leon County Sheriff's Office. Just recently celebrated an anniversary for his 20th year, serving in multiple roles from patrol to heat, special victims unit, patrol sergeant, and even as the public information officer. So I'm excited just for this conversation, and I know you all will be interested in what he has to share with you just about his career journey and some of the great things he plans to do as his newest position, recruiter at the Leon County Sheriff's Office. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate it.
So let's just start from the beginning. Who are you? Tell the people, reintroduce yourself, and then for those who you've known for years, give them a shout out.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on, Javonni. Again, you've kind of introduced me to the folks listening that, I'm a 20-year veteran. I started with the Sheriff's Office in 2005 as a reserve deputy, which is basically an auxiliary unit. We do a lot of the special functions. But the main part is that you get your name in the agency. You do a lot of things for free. You're not getting paid, but you've already been through background. They've already given you a uniform, but you work a lot of the special events. Springtime Tallahassee, as the people are hearing this podcast, it will be the next day after this. So that's a big event. And I can remember working that, as a reserve deputy. I did join the agency about a year and a half after that as a full-time employee. I guess you could say what started me in law enforcement. My father was drafted by the Army back in the 70s for Vietnam, and my mom and dad have always been involved in corrections. My mom worked at ACI, my dad worked at Dozier School for Boys, and I always had that life around me. I remember my mom bringing work home every night, just about. She was kind of a pioneer in her day. She was the first female personnel manager at one of the highly ranked state prisons. So I remember her work. I remember going to see in her office, going behind the curtain, so to speak, at a prison to go see her some days and things like that. So I've always had this world in my life, so to speak. But I think I've always liked structure. A lot of people say, well, that's your OCD coming out. I don't know. I tend to be very organized. And that just kind of translated into what I wanted to do for a living. I am a child of 9/11. I was one of the folks that unfortunately were able to see that happen live in front of them. And I can say that's probably what tipped me over the edge of wanting to do something. I had went and talked to my dad, and my dad was like, I was really close to joining the armed forces. And my dad told me, he said, I'd rather you stay here and make a difference. And he kind of convinced me to stay here and think of a way to make a difference stateside. So I decided to go in law enforcement. Went through the academy, probably, not the hardest 6 months, but it was probably the most, concentrated 6 months of my life, because I knew that I had to do well in there. I'd figured out and talked to enough people that law enforcement was becoming more cerebral than it was physical at that time. This was mid 2000s, so around 2005. So I went through the academy, was not highly recruited. Tallahassee Police Department had a bunch of recruits in the class, and with me, I was always just kind of navigated towards the sheriff's office, whether it would be I'm from Jackson County, so there was always the option to move back to Jackson County. But I really, really wanted to stay in Tallahassee and Leon County. And I met then Sergeant Steve Harrelson, that's since then ascended through the sheriff's office and since retired. He cornered me up in the hallway one day, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "are you currently involved with another agency? Are you a free agent?" And I said, "No, sir." I said, "I'm strictly a free agent right now." So he was the one that kind of said, "Hey, I really like, your report writing." He taught us report writing. So I can tell you just from my career, I understand why he maybe sought me out during the academy for report writing, because it is such an important component to law enforcement, the documentation side of what we do. So anyway, got hired in February of 07. And after that, did uniform patrol for around 4 years. Never worked day shift. Always worked night shift. Night shift was fun.
What's the night shift times?
My times were 4 in the afternoon till 3:30 in the morning, but we had kind of a breakfast club in the mornings, and the sergeants always knew that the early shift guys were kind of hanging out waiting in case something happened. So we worked from 4 o'clock in the morning till 3:30 in the morning, but most of the time we hung out till about 4 o'clock to let the guys started on their paper. The late guys get started on their paperwork because they didn't go home till about 6:30 in the morning. So after that, went into the school resource unit, and I can say that at this time in my career, that was probably the most rewarding time that I've had in my career. We spoke early on our Facebook Live earlier this week about the fact that there are times in your career where you really feel like you made an impact and significance. And during that time, I got really close with my students. And until this day, when I'm out in public or something and somebody, one of my past students or former students sees me or notices me, they will come out and see me. I was actually talking on the phone one day out in front of a store in one of the little open shopping centers in Tallahassee here recently, and I guess the door to the store was opening back and forth, and one of the young ladies that was working in there was one of my former students.
Wow. And
she came out and stood next to me, and I looked at her, and I was still on the phone, and I was smiling at her. So when I got off the phone, I said, "How did you know this was me?" She goes, "I cannot mistake that voice." So she come out and gave me a hug, and she was one of my students from, I'm talking from like 2011, 2012.
Wow.
So that was, those are the times that are rewarding to me. But after I got in schools, I left schools.
What school were you at?
I was at Fairview Middle School.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Loved my kids at Fairview. They kept me busy now. They kept the seats hot in my office. But most of the time those kids are just, they're hungering for positive attention. And that was just a great way for me to integrate myself into the community that, I'd work night shift, Javonni. I didn't see a lot of people. I mean, I dealt with the rough customers at night, I didn't get to see a lot of the normal folk in the morning because I was, sleeping during the day. That's what you do. So after that, I was lucky enough to go into criminal investigations, and I started my investigations career, I guess you could say, in property crimes. And I did so well in there, they put me in financial crime. But financial crime and property crime is kind of one and the same. It's asset crime.
Right.
And then after that, I was in there for about 6 to 8 months. And anyone that knows me know I'm kind of high activity, high strung, I guess you could say. But I like to stay active to a certain degree. And I went in, I talked to my sergeant. He was a great sergeant, still a great mentor to me. I actually talked to him a couple of days ago. We're really close trainers now. But he said, "Hey," he goes, "you don't like this, do you?" And that's a testament to the folks that work inside this agency, is that they can see when someone's not comfortable. Okay, well, how can we make you comfortable? And that was the first time that somebody had actually taken me inside and said, "Hey, I can tell what you're doing right now is not making you happy. And your work product is showing." And I was honest with him. I told him, I said, "Sarge, I said, I hate sitting behind this computer. And the guys that work in financial crime, they do a lot of great work. That just wasn't the work that Shade wanted to do at that point in time." So he said, "Well, what about violent crimes?" And I said, "I'd love to." Now that was stepping into the deep end of the pool. Yeah. But I really wanted to challenge myself. I knew that if I went through there, A, it would make me better, and B, I would grow through that. No matter the challenges, it's always a pressure cooker in there. Yeah, it's a pressure cooker. But I knew that if I, stayed the course and did what I was supposed to do, it would benefit me in the long run. And it did. I learned a lot in that unit. You see a lot. I tell people all the time, there's things that I can't unsee in this career, and a lot of it happened in those 4 or 5 years that I was in that unit.
Yeah.
But I do think that was probably what made me the best law enforcement officer that I am now, or at least the level that I am now, is going through that unit. From a teamwork standpoint, that unit is built solely on teamwork, because at any point in time, this is PIO, at any point in time when something happens out there and it's all hands on deck, you have teams. And the way these teams work in and out of each other is the success of the agency, basically. So, then, like you said, I was privileged enough to be tapped as the public information officer by Sheriff McNeil, and I can remember having a conversation with him after that was chosen.
Were you the first under Sheriff McNeil?
No, the first under Sheriff McNeil was now Assistant Sheriff Grady Jordan. Then it was Dave Teams, now Sergeant Dave Teams, and then I was after Dave.
Okay.
And I came in at a very strange time. I came in a month before COVID hit. And I can remember putting out my first press release was basically on March 18th, 2020, that we were closing down the office.
Yeah.
And we were all, I can remember sitting around in the office sitting around with our team going, what are we going to do now? Because we're fixing to be separated. We all knew that we were going on remote work. Yeah. I set up an office up in my brother-in-law's Ace hardware store, had a TV, had a camera, just kind of like you have set up in here today. But that was a very challenging time because people were wondering, well, what is law enforcement going to do? Right. How is law enforcement going to change? And in some ways it did change. People want, are y'all going to still come? Are y'all going to still respond to crime? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? So,
and then all the jail stuff you had to do.
Yes. I mean, as far as I can remember, I know you get calls all the time because I got called. I had to report our numbers pretty much every day of the population that was affected by COVID. So
I was a reporter at the time, so we were looking for you.
Yeah, you were looking for that information because I know they had the state dashboard and I had to look at that state dashboard every day. So and I had to I had to compare our stats to what the state looked like. So that was a real challenging time, but again, the challenge made me grow and being able to handle the situations that happened out there and being able to talk to the media about. I also had an officer involved shooting while I was a PIO, and that's always something that is media centric, and I understood the gravity of that as well. So there was a lot of cool things that happened during PIO. The coolest thing was that I got to know how administration works behind the curtain, so to speak. A lot of there's not too many people can say they can actually have a text conversation with the sheriff. That was probably one of the coolest things I did when I was PIO. But you get close to the command staff and folks that you can only see at arm's length sometimes. Right. But they get to know you a little bit better. So you become a steward and an ambassador of the agency, if you will. You know that as well, being in the position. So. But after that, I guess I did such a good job. The sheriff promoted me out of that position. And then after that position, I went back into the schools and ran our juvenile intervention and investigative unit, which was basically a unit that took anytime we had something that happened out in, like, let's say out in the wild, so to speak, with one of our students in Leon County. If it didn't happen during school time that our SRDs, our school resource deputies, could handle or work, we actually took the undertaking on that case. So we did a lot of missing children cases and things like that. Probably what happened, how that migrated into the Special Investigations Unit, which is now called the HEAT Unit, right? Was that we started seeing a lot of the missing children were being recovered around adults that they had no business being with. And during that time, human trafficking was becoming a hot topic in the country due to the border situation. So, the powers that be sat down and said, you know what, do we truly have a way to respond to this human trafficking issue going on in our country? So it was decided that we would migrate our juvenile investigative unit into a human trafficking unit.
Wow.
So that started in January of 23. I had started back school right before that. So I was going back to school for Homeland Security as well as starting this new unit. So for about 20 months, it was probably one of the most hectic times in my career, but I'm proud to say that we started something that now is just flourishing. Sergeant Rachel Buell has taken it, and when she took it over for me, I kind of handed it to her. I said, hey, this is what I've done with it. Go make it better. And she truly has. So I really appreciate it.
On the team at the time when
she was not. She was a sergeant on patrol. Okay. And she had showed interest in the unit because I had made the announcement that I was leaving, going back to patrol, just mainly because I wanted to go back to school. And that unit I knew was going to get big. Just
at the time you were a sergeant.
Right. I was a sergeant over the unit. So I could see, I could actually foreshadow the fact that unit was going to take off. And I knew that if I wanted to take care of the one challenge I'd set for myself was go back to school. And I said, I knew that I would not be able to give to this unit the part of me that it needed to move on and flourish. So I made the tough decision to get out. And I went back to uniform patrol, which was, again, probably one of the coolest things I've done to be able to reconnect with the guys. It kind of refreshed me. My wife can tell you it was just a different shade around the house, because it was just different. It was cool to be out teaching again.
Yeah.
You know, these young gals and guys hit the road and they're wide-eyed, and they really don't know what this life is until they really get into it. But I think, you know, coming full circle now to be a recruiter, again, I think it's a branch off of that teaching and training and educating these guys, but it's going out and finding the folks that have that little itch of, I want to be something more than what I think I am right now. And that's what law enforcement is being better than what you think you are for your community.
Yeah. And I like to listen to the way that, you speak about law enforcement and even some of the others that I've interviewed, because sometimes obviously there has been a misunderstanding about law enforcement. What is something that the community or the public should know just about law enforcement? How important, I guess, today when it comes to communication, especially with you serving as a PIO and then 5-6 years later, how important is communication in just policing?
I have learned, and you know, I went and talked to some students at FAMU about a month ago. We did kind of a presentation for them in one of their criminology classes. I'm sorry I throw out all these crim and these you know, things that people don't really understand what I'm saying, but it's criminology classes at FAMU. And I think the biggest thing I tell folks is that we're not born with this uniform on. We're all human beings. And the fact that we, you know, pardon the metaphor, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. We just put on a uniform. Our pants are uniforms. If we have the open communication and dialogue with our community, that ultimately we are trying to make not only your world better, but our world as well. If we're out policing your community, it's the same as our community as well. It's going to go hand in hand. We were making the comment and discussion the other day about how Tallahassee is a big city, but it's still small enough that people know you around the corner. You still know your neighbor. You still run into people, you know, 2 and 3 times a week in the same circle. So it's not like a Jacksonville or an Orlando or Tampa, but Tallahassee still has that moniker of having that big city because of what we have here. We have the 2 major universities. We are the seat of government. So every February, March, and April, the highlight is on Tallahassee, having to do with legislature when the Senate and the House are in. So I think the coolest thing about our community is the fact that we still are that close knit, but we still have that big city feel sometimes. Yeah. You know, that I talked about, Banana Ball. They don't pick cities for that huge conglomerate to come around. If you look at their world tour or their nationwide tour this year, you're talking about the cities of the cities: Los Angeles, San Diego, Seattle, New York. They're playing in huge places, but they chose Tallahassee to come do their opening weekend, first time actually opening weekend for their season. Yeah. And they did it in Tallahassee, and they shut down Doak Campbell Stadium. So
Tallahassee is a great place.
It's just, it's a great hub. And the cool, like I said, the cool thing is that it is a big city, but it just does not have that big city feel. It has that small town feel. And I think that goes along with our law enforcement as well, is that we realize we're not too big for our britches, so to speak. We still need to have that community feel when it comes down to our agencies within the region.
And then, just after 20 years, what made you want to say, I need it now in recruiting?
I think when you get to this part in your career, you start thinking about, what am I giving back? I'm not, running the streets and chasing down people, so to speak. And I'm not working cases because now I'm in leadership. So you start going, okay, what is my impact? What is my significance? And I actually sat down with our agency chaplain one day, and I was like, listen, I want some guidance. And he asked me, he says, well, what do you feel? What do you want to do? And at that time I was coaching, little league girls basketball for the city of Tallahassee. And I said, chaplain, I said, I've struggled with the fact that I could not coach this fall for my little girls team. And I said, I really felt a void, a hole. And he said, well, what that is And it just spoke to me. He said, that's something telling you that that's the component missing in you. That's the best component of you. So after he said that, honestly, that's kind of what pushed me back to patrol when I had the opportunity to leave the heat unit, was figure out what I wanted to do. Because I was offered other things, and they were like, well, why you want to go back to patrol? I'm like, there's just something pulling me back into that environment. And it had a lot to do with the teaching aspect of it. I think that law enforcement, as we move in our career and then we're moving out of it towards the latter part of your career, you start thinking about your legacy. Well, what's your legacy? What are you leaving behind you that's going to not only change how it looks right now, but also affect change as you leave? And I think through the recruiting aspect of it is that it's an awesome responsibility to go and find the new leaders of this profession. We're professionals. We're not. We get certified, and all the training that we go through is unlike any other profession in this world. So I think to go out and find those diamonds in the rough, so to speak, and the people that are willing to shine under pressure, because this job is all about pressure. I will tell you that it's all about pressure and how you perform underneath those pressure situations. So find people that aren't scared of adversity. It's because I've had hard time. This young lady sitting next to me, my wife, she's seen the adversity that I've went through in 20 years. She's had to live through it. Yeah. They're unsung heroes too. Our spouses and our partners in our lives. So, she's seen the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of this career. And she's also seen the good times. And I always tell people that the sheriff's office has also provided me tons of opportunities that I've spoken in front of 1,000 people in Orlando. I've spoken at an international police convention in Boston. So there's things that I can say that the sheriff's office, well, not only the sheriff's office, but this profession brought me that would have never happened before. And I'm just extremely proud of that. And, as I move out of my career and I retire in, 5 or 10 years or whatever the case may be, I still think I'll always be attached to it. Because I think once you're in it, it's in your blood, so to speak. But I think from a recruiting standpoint, that's what I'm doing now, is trying to find that next level and that next class of folks that, just like I was searching for that sergeant to take over that unit, I want somebody to make it better than I left. And I'm trying to make it better than I found it. But that's what I have to do, is find someone to make it better after I leave.
Wow. That's really good. And for those of you who are listening, Sergeant McMillian, he didn't say that at the beginning of the interview, but he's off work today. He brought his wife in. She's in here in support. And so the dedication and the passion that you hear behind his voice, it's real. And I actually have a chance to witness it in person. So today was an honor.
Honor here.
So much
I appreciate
for joining the LCSO podcast. So what I didn't tell you is at the very end, there's a fun section where I do a speed round. And so I ask you a question and you say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
It's
well, I'm glad I wake up. I'm glad I'm used to waking up early in the morning, because I'll hopefully be able to pass this round.
Yes. So you'll be good. It's only 6 questions. It'll be quick. All right, so here we go. Patrol or investigations?
Patrol.
Day shift or night shift?
That's
Very quick.
I would say probably night shift.
Night shift? Okay, toughest assignment, heat or SRD?
Heat was tough. SRD was easy just because you got to get, I love the kids, so it was fun.
Kids. One word to describe LCSO.
Opportunity.
One word to describe yourself.
Unorthodox.
Okay, that's nice.
Take what you will.
Yeah.
You don't know me that well, but this one sitting over this chair understands I'm very unorthodox with some things, but it's worked out well. I'm still in this career, so I've done something right for 20 years.
Coffee or energy drinks?
Oh, coffee. I'm not a big energy drink guy.
Advice in one sentence to someone thinking about joining LCSO.
Do it. Yeah, I cannot find people enough that it's, ever since we did Facebook Live on Wednesday, my phone started blowing up. And I don't know if that's because they saw this goofy guy on Facebook, or maybe I awakened something in them. And that's it. It's you have to have a heart for public service. And if you feel it, you go for it. Because that's what I did. Like I said, when I saw those buildings fall on September 11th, 2001, there was something in me that awokened after that. Because I was in banking at that time. And had I stayed in banking, I might be the president of a bank right now, to be perfectly honest with you. Probably a lot more life added to the end of my life, so to speak. Not more years added to the end of my life. But I just do it. Jump out there and do it. If it's something that you want to do, and I do believe that it's a calling, but I believe it's more than a calling. I believe it's just an attitude to help people and serve people, and that's and your heart fulfills when you help people. So I think if you're thinking about doing it, do it.
All right. Well, Sergeant McMillian's career is a reminder that this badge isn't just a job. That's what I got from the conversation. It's a commitment to growth, service, and leadership. And now he's helping shape the next generation of deputies who will carry that mission forward. If you have ever thought about a career in law enforcement, this is your sign to step up and, as he said, just do it. Just do it. And we will close out our podcast the same way that we do if the sheriff were here. And we'll say we are all in.
Working together to make Leon County safer.